Hello to you all out there. As you can see, we are going to cover the second poem of class 12th, An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum, written by Stephen Spender. This poem depicts the harsh reality of our world. On the one hand, we have modern high tech schools with all kinds of facilities. And on the other hand, we have schools which can barely be called as schools. They too have students, the slum children, and they have difficult life, struggling life. This poem is about them. So let's have a look. What does the poem convey? Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor, the tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with rat's eyes. In the opening lines of the poem, the poet tries to convey that there are these children of slum. They are far from gusty waves, they are far from energy, they are far from any kind of enthusiasm. And these children, they are like rootless weeds. It's a metaphor, rootless weeds. Rootless weeds here convey two meanings. On the one hand, rootless weeds means the unwanted plants. So these children are unwanted people of our society. They are not welcome anywhere. And rootless weeds also convey when there is a weed which is rootless. It looks dead. So these children hardly have anything to tell that these people are alive. The hair torn round their pallor. Now this line suggests that the hair torn round their pallor means they are shabby. They have not combed, they have not bathed themselves, they are not clean. So this line suggests that. Then the tall girl with her weighed down head. There is a girl in the class who is very tall. So, but the girl, the way she is sitting, her head is weighed down. It conveys many meanings. Weighed down head means many things here. What one of those things would be? This girl may be embarrassed because she appears to be the oldest in the class. This girl is unable to carry the weight of her head because she is so thin, she is so tall. She may be embarrassed because of that. This girl is weighing down her head because of poverty. She is unable to take that burden of life. One more boy poet talks here is the paper seeming boy. Then there is a boy who is paper seeming. Paper seeming means he is so thin. The boy is so thin. Maybe malnourished, this boy, and that's why he is so thin that poet compares the boy with paper. Further, the same boy with rat's eyes, but the boy has rat's eyes. Rat's eyes means, what does the poet want to convey here is that the boy has rat's eyes, means always searching for something, always looking for something, alert, always searching something to get, maybe food. The stunted, unlucky hire of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lessons. Then there is a boy who has got inheritance from his father, a disease, where his bones are not totally grown up. And that boy reciting his lesson, sitting there. So this is basic lookout of the class the poet wants to convey here. Further he says, at back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young. Then there is a boy at the back of the class, dim class. Poet conveys the dim class, means which is not very lighted up. There is no light in the room, which is very dim, which is very dark. And there is at the end of the class, at the back of the class, there is sitting a very young boy who has hardly been noticed by anybody so far. His eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. But this boy, he looks outside. He is looking at tree room. Poet compares a tree as tree room. Why? Because the room in the classroom, that classroom is so small. It's so shabby. It's so dirty. And then outside there's a tree which is full of life, which is free, which is open. And there this boy is interested in the squirrel game more than the lesson that he is being given to in the class. This boy is interested outside in the nature, looking at the squirrel running on the tree from one place to another. That's why poet called that tree as tree room, because the boy is interested in the tree, the game of the squirrel, rather than being interested in the lesson that is being delivered in the class. Next stanza. On sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, civilized doom, riding all cities. Then this classroom. Poet calls the classroom walls as sour cream walls. Sour cream walls here means that, again, that shabby appearance. The classroom walls have not been painted for long. The paint has come off. Already has come off. It looks dirty. It looks that nobody has cleaned it for many years or months, or it has taken a long time. So these sour creams, but the walls of this room trying to be covered with the donations. What are the donations? Shakespeare's head. There is a portrait of Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, and a beautiful morning photo. The picture of beautiful morning. Civilized doom. Then there is photo of civilized doom. Civilized doom here convey what? Doom means the upper portion of maybe a temple, maybe a church, maybe a mosque. That dome, what does it represent? It represents city. It represents civilized people, people who go to worship, people those who have time to go to worship, those who love to go to worship, to beautiful places. All these pictures are hanging in this classroom, are pasted on the wall already as donations. Riding all cities, bell, flowery, tireless valley. Then there is this tireless valley, a beautiful valley filled with flowers, all over flowers, the valley. These pictures are being already pasted on the walls of the this classroom, which is otherwise very shabby, which is otherwise very dirty. So the poet here draws this contrast that there is a room which is very shabby, which is very dirty, but the walls with the donations that the school has got is decorated with Shakespeare's pictures, with a beautiful morning, with a valley which is filled with flowers, and there are these domes of temples, church, mosque, all these religious places, and all over the city. So this contrast has been drawn in. Further, the poet says here that there is a map also, open-handed map awarding the world its world. There is a map, open-handed map. The children can look at this map and tell that, okay, this is the world. The map tells them this is the world. These are the countries. These are the rivers. These are the mountains. This map is there. But the map shows these children that the place where you live is not the world. This is the world. But for the children, the map doesn't have, this map doesn't exist in their life. Their life is in that slum where they are living. Further, the poet says, and yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, where all their futures painted with a fog. Very correct. The poet here says that this map, which is showing them the world with cities, with countries, with valleys, with mountains, but for these children, this map is not their real world. Their real world is outside the window. When they look out the window, what is there outside the window? The slum, the narrow, stinking lanes where they are living. That's their world. This map is not their world, certainly not their world. And poet further says that, and where they live in this slum, which is covered with fog. Fog here got meaning that when there is fog, we cannot see through. We cannot see the other side. So this fog, their future is painted with fog, means their future is uncertain. They cannot see beyond this fog. That means they cannot see beyond this slum. Their future is uncertain there. There is no surety of their future, what they will do and how the future would shape up for them. So this was the second stanza. We move on to the next one. The poet here further says that a narrow street sealed in with the lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. Their street is covered with lead sky, means the cloud over their head are totally polluted of the industries smoke that is coming out, of all kinds of pollution in the air. That is their entire this street, their slum is covered with this lead sky. That's why this term lead sky has been used, which is poisonous. This gas, this air, this oxygen that they are breathing in, which is very poisonous. And this place of their slum is far from rivers, valleys, beautiful world, and stars of words. The education, this education, these words, this literature is far from their life. We go on to the next stanza. Surely Shakespeare is wicked, the map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal. Shakespeare has been termed here as wicked. Why? Simply because Shakespeare's, what does he talk? What does he represent? Shakespeare represents being intellectual. He represents luxury. He represents literature of this beautiful world. For these children, Shakespeare is wicked because he is presenting this beautiful world of these palaces, kings, queens, luxuries, lifestyle full of luxury. The world is so beautiful in Shakespeare's creations. Shakespeare talks about literature. Shakespeare talks about education. But for that's why he is wicked, because he is tempting them to run away from this place. He is tempting them to steal, to come out of this place, and whatever may be the cause, go and do something legal or illegal. Try to come out of this one. That's why Shakespeare has been termed here as wicked. Further, he talks about ship's son and he is tempting them. The world that he is presenting to them never exists for these people. So what they would do? Because normal circumstances, they would never be able to see this world. They would never be able to experience this world. So it may tempt them to do something illegal. It may tempt them to run away from the place. That's why Shakespeare is wicked. Furthermore, for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes, from fog to endless night. On their slag heap, these children wear skins peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel with mended glass. These children, the life of these children is in a cramped hole. They are like living in cramped holes, so tiny, so small, means narrow. It's difficult to breathe in these places, and these children are living there. And further poet says that on their slag heap, means their body, when we look at their physical appearance, it look like somebody has just taken a layer of skin and pasted over the bones. They hardly look healthy. Forget about being healthy. They hardly look they look like skeleton. Somebody has taken a layer of skin and pasted over their body. That's what he's saying, the slag heap. These children wear skins peeped through by bones, as if their bones are trying to come out of their skin. At any moment, their bones would come out of their skins. And spectacles of mended steel, the spectacles broken glass, like they are wearing the spectacles totally broken, which again suggests their poverty, which is again a sign of their terrible poverty that these children are living in. Their glasses, they appear like bottle bits on stones, as if somebody has broken a bottle on a stone, and is as if the particles of that broken bottle spread all over. Their glasses are like that, which again represent their poverty. Furthermore, all of their time and space are foggy slum. So blot their maps with slum as big as doom. All of their time and space, their entire life will be consumed in this slum. Whole life they would spend in this slum. Whatever they have to offer, whatever they have to get, will be in this slum only. So blot their maps with the slums as big as doom. Therefore, these maps that they see, the maps that we see, which covered with cities, the dooms, the valleys, sun, everything. This map should also have slums shown, the real world, the other side of our world. There should be slums also be shown in these maps. The final stanza, last stanza, the poet here is in a suggestive mood, in a advice giving mood, and what he says? He says, unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, all the responsible people of our society, unless they come and interfere to help these people, unless someone of us come out and help them, the governor, the inspector, the politicians, the responsible people, this map becomes their window. They will come to know about the world through this map only. They would never be able to see the real world. And these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs, and their lives will be continue to remain in these lives like catacombs. Catacombs means the underground graveyards. There used to be underground graveyards earlier with different segments. So their life is in one of those segments, underground graveyard, where they would continue to live. Otherwise, if we want to bring them out of these catacombs, we need to interfere. We need to help them. Further poet says, break, oh break open till they break the town. So he says that it's high time that we break this stoppage in their life, that we try to help them and bring them out, and let them see the town, let them see the city, and show the children to green fields. Let them see the green fields, let them see the greenery, let them see the open fields, and make their world run azure on gold sand. And let them run under the clear sky. Azure here means clear sky. Let them run in under the blue clear sky on gold sands, with sand sunlight being falling on the sand, and they are running, means nature. They are close to nature, the nature which has to offer so many beautiful things to us. So these children, let them see the towns, let them see the green fields, let them run under the clear sky, not that lead sky, but the clear sky, blue sky, without a tinge of cloud there. And let their tongues run naked into books, the white and green leaves open. History theirs, whose language is the sun. At the end, poet wants to say that, and let these children learn from the book. Run naked here means let them be free. Let them have freedom to learn from the books, white and green. White, the books that we read. Green leaves means nature. Let them learn from both the things, from the nature as well as from the books, from the literature, from the books. Let them learn freely, let them live freely. They should be closer to the nature. They should learn the green leaves also. They should know about the rivers, the sea, the ocean, the cloudless sky, and so many other things. History theirs, whose language is the sun. At the end, the poet says that history theirs, the name in the history, the name in the world have been made by the people whose language is the sun. That means who know about the nature. Also, it also symbolizes that whose language is the sun. Sun, it burns itself to light the world. Therefore, until and unless we are ready to put in hard work, unless and until we are ready to put in our efforts, the history will never remember us. So therefore, we need to help these people, to sacrifice for these people, like sun sacrifices for the world. We need to sacrifice for these people and help these people, these children, these unfortunate children, to bring them out of the slum and let them live freely. Let them learn white and green. Let them learn from book. Let them learn from nature. And that's how we come to the end of the poem. See you again in the next chapter or maybe next poem. Till then, take care, do study, work hard.